Welcome back to the show. Today, I want to talk about something that every single one of us deal with, but we never slow down enough to deal with it, and that's education. I want to talk about education because we live in a world today that it seems like education is losing its value from one way or another because of what this person or that person says. Education in any form is education. Um, I like to always relate this back to myself. Um, for many of you, or the ones that read my book or listened to the show, know that I had 2 years of college, and outside of that, everything else was kind of self-taught. Outside of becoming a certified arborist, when I went back to become a certified arborist, being a self-taught business person, learning as I went on. And every year I strive to be better. Every day I strive to be better. My favorite saying is, by this time next year, I'm going to be better than I am at this present moment today. And that's my education, because I look for ways through reading books, through listening to other podcasts, to listening to jazz music. I try to find that common resolve. I try to vibrate within my personal being uh, the spirit of motivation and moving forward, so I can be the creator that God has created me to be. To be a father for my children, to be a good business person for my employees, and to be an asset to society and not a weight on society. But so many people nowadays on their platforms seem to knock education for whatever reason. And let's face it, college, education, the university itself is a business. Nothing more than a business. Is it something to be knocked? Absolutely not. Because it's a business and it's an opportunity to grow. So I never seen this in my 40 plus years of life of the attack on the educational system. Let's put it into context. Do you need a college degree to be successful? Absolutely not. But look at it this way. If I had to have open heart surgery, and I hope that I never have to have open heart surgery, do I want a self-taught person to give me an open heart surgery? Or do I want a college graduate, not just with degrees on his wall, but somebody that has the correct college education to operate on me? We can swiftly and quickly say that, oh, education is not important, or you don't have to get a college degree. In some cases, that may be true, but it's no reason to knock the educational system itself, because it has its perks. We've been able to build, not only in this country, but across this world, through education. And whether you, again, get it through a college education or a technical school, or just being self-taught from learning from your experiences, it's an education. And there's no way anybody on the face of this earth can survive without some type of education. If you grew up on a farm, you had some type of training on how to be a good farmer. Me, some of my best experiences came from being self-taught or bad experiences. Case in point, the name of this show is 7,000 Volts, Living an Electrified Life. If you read my book or you listen to this podcast, you know how I got that title. You know how I got these scars on my hands, and it's through literally 7,000 volts from an electrical line that arced over into a limb that I was holding after I cut it with my chainsaw. That was a life-changing educational situation for me. And so that experience can't be duplicated. At least I really don't want it to be duplicated with anybody else, because most people that come in contact with that type of electricity do not survive. So it is a miracle as well as a blessing that I'm still here today to tell my story. And if 7,000 votes wasn't enough before the 7,000 votes, I got myself in trouble as a young teenager, as a young LJ Tucker. That was an educational experience that I don't intend to repeat. So life in itself is an educational journey slash experience that we learn from, that we grow from, that takes us to another level in life. I write about this in my book. Every job that I've had has brought me to this point now. Being a night auditor at the hotel has taught me how to crunch and deal with numbers. I had to do it for the hotels, at the Hampton Inns, at the Sheraton Sand Key Resort. I had to crunch other people's numbers and make the books balance. That was a form of education. Working for a moving company, moving stuff upstairs, downstairs, heavy boxes, light boxes. It's like a big jumbo pot of jumbo. There's a lot of different ingredients that goes into the recipe, but it brought me to where I am now, where I'm able to mentor and educate others through my experience. You know, it's good to have a diploma, degree, your certificate, or I'm a certified arborist. It hangs on the wall. It looks good, but it doesn't define who you are. You know, we're living in an age now where people define success so differently to it's like, it's mind blowing. And I personally don't get it. You have people that claims that you should be in real estate, you should be making XYZ, you should have all these millions of dollars, you should be driving a $100,000 car, you should live in a mansion, you should have your own private jet. Number one, that's overwhelming for the average person. And everybody don't want a private jet. Everybody don't want to live in a mansion. And because of that, why should they want that if that's not the life that they want for themselves? Case in point, as a business owner for over 2 decades, a century now, I've worked for the really wealthy and I've worked for the very modest. And it seems like sometimes, in not all cases, you have the people with the most, the jets, the $1 million homes, the $100,000-$200,000 cars. It's not enough. They're still chasing for more. And it's not that wholesome family feel. I'm not knocking it, I'm just explaining it. And I've worked for other people that $200,000-$300,000 home, bigger family, $30,000-$50,000 car, and it seems like they have no stress in the world. So I see it from both sides of the spectrum. Money does not make you successful. It allows you to buy things. It allows you to feel comfortable or live comfortable. In the Bible, when it talks about money, there's one of the scripture, Ecclesiastes 10:19-20. And it says, money answers all things. It didn't say being wealthy and having $1 million in your account answers all things. It says money itself. Everybody don't prioritize money the same way. I prioritize my health over money. What good is it to have $1 billion and not the health to enjoy? This misleading people is all these false narratives of education is not important. And when we go down that road, we start creating for ourselves and we start trying to build a life that someone is trying to create for us. And if we're not careful, if we're not educated enough, we fall for what we called in one of my episodes, the banana in the tailpipe, because we're creators. And we can never forget that fact that we are creators. And as a creator, you get to create the life that you want for yourself. You might not want to go to NFL games. You might just be happy going to college games or high school games. In fact, Olivia's in band, and people that watch the show, you know, Olivia's my oldest daughter, and she's in high school this year. And I enjoy going to the games on Friday night to see her play the flute. and as well as seeing the band plays. You know, jazz is my first love. Then I love the sound of the marching band, followed by gospel music that I grew up with. And so just being there on Friday nights, just enjoying the sound of that drum line, the sound of that brass, that's part of my success. Being able to be the father. In fact, yesterday I told the kids, Michael and David to be exact. Uh, Michael had a soccer game, and I told him, I said, I have something special for you if you score a goal today, because he's playing competitive soccer now, and it can be a little intimidating, but I figured that I'll motivate him as a father, and it worked because not one, but he scored 2 goals on Saturday, and I couldn't go to the game, but my wife had to go to the game because David had a baseball game, and their games were at the same time. David did well. Michael did well. We ended up at International Mall, and what did those two want? I surprised them. They wanted to build a bear. I don't know who all is familiar with Build-A-Bear, but it's this whole production that they get to pick the bear they want. They get to stuff it. They put the thing in the bear. They stuff it. The lady sews it up, and before she sews it up, they put this heart in there. And there's just so much going on. And then these bears, they get to put names. They give them names. Michael named his Stripe. David named his Jaws. They get these birth certificates. Next thing you know, I'm a grandfather. God bless America. They're bears giving them birth certificates. And all of this is going on in my mind. I'm like, wow, this really makes my boys happy. And I was glad. I was like, wow, this really made my boys happy. And I was proud at that moment as a father that I can help bring happiness to their lives. Not just because they was getting some material things, just to hold the experience and experience that part of life with them. That's my part of success, just being able to be a father, not just to build a business, because my family is more important than a business, and the fact that I can provide for them and be able to do the smallest things, hold my word when I say I'm going to do something for them, not be influenced by all the noise. And that's all it is, it's noise. There's so much noise around, we can't hear the voices telling us to go left or go right or keep moving forward. Don't go backwards. All in the name of sometimes money or trying to be something that we're not, trying to keep up with the Johnsons or the Jones. We have a race to run, and it's called our own race. And when we realize this, life becomes simpler. Our smile gets bigger. The stress level drops, and we get to live in peace. Because as we live in peace, we get to enjoy this journey of life and deal with its fair share of obstacles that comes at us without skipping a beat, without having a nervous breakdown, without having to take depression pills, and just get to look in the mirror and be proud of, just to get to look in the mirror and be proud of who we are and what we become. I remember one of the first times I got caught up trying to chase somebody else's success. I don't know if it was MCI or Amway. I got approached. They said, are you interested in making more money? Attend this event. So I attended this event. Before you know it, I was influenced, chasing something. I guess they call it a pyramid scheme with the Amway. And you got to get all these people, your family and friends, to try to sign up. And that took me off course. And I appreciate that experience, because later on down the road, with those same type of opportunities or distractions, I call them today, came along, I was able to sift it out like wheat and knew what it was for what it was. And be like, nah, I'm good. And then they get the rebuttal. You sure you don't want to, you can't use making extra money? I'm saying, nope, I'm happy with what I make. And we have to come to that point to say, nope. Say it with me, nope, I'm happy with what I make. Say it one more time. Nope, I'm happy with what I make. Because when we become happy, we become content, and we don't chase unrealistic goals and dreams. Because when you start chasing something only because of the money, you become a puppet or a pawn. And once you're a puppet or pawn like in chess, not pawn like in the water, pawn. And I say that because I want to be clear. Once you become a puppet or a pawn, somebody else is making all the decisions. You're no longer a creator and you're a puppet or a pawn. And I say that not to be disrespectful to anybody, but if you're not in control of your life and making your own decisions, then who is? If you're jumping out every flashy paint color or trinket or newest fad or newest thing or object, you're like a ship without a sail. And that's my truth on that. There's no, there's no straddling the fence. Either you're going to be here and be a creator and create, whether it's big, small, or in between, life that you want for yourself. You know, there's so many influencers out there, and everybody wants you to chase what they're chasing. And that's just not the case. Everybody wants you to be an investor or be a real estate guru. And that's not what you want. I'm like, she's going to get mad at me for saying this. My wife, many years ago, she's like, I'm going to go to real estate school and become a real estate agent. And I was like, why? She, because that's something I want to do. Being the husband I am, I said, no problem. Do what makes you happy. I stayed out of her way. She went to real estate school, passed the test, became a real estate agent, and never worked one day in real estate. I said, what happened? You spent all this time and money. She's like, that's not what I really wanted to do. I just got caught up and thought that's something that I needed to be. I said, well, I'm glad I didn't stand in your way and stop you. But some lessons you're going to have to learn from yourself, and we call that the school of hard knocks. I didn't say I told you so or this or that. It goes to show when you get caught up in watching material, propaganda, whatever they call it, you feel obligated, you feel less than, you devalue yourself on what? Not being a creator. You have to trust your creation. You may have heard me say on this show before, and I'm going to say it again. Walter Flowers had faces in him. They told him something was wrong with him. They wanted him to be checked out by the school psychiatrist because his flowers had faces in them. Long story short, if he would allow the narrative from the teachers and the school psychiatrists to define who he was, when they tried to convince him that flowers don't have faces in them when he drew the pictures, Walt Disney World wouldn't exist today. It would be a different name because somebody else would have had that vision, and we wouldn't know little Walter as Walt Disney World that we have today. I appreciate your time today. I hope this message resonated with someone. I hope it helped someone. If it did anything to help you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great week.